So, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name's Rob Gowans, and I'm the Alliance's Policy and Public Affairs Manager. And I'm joined today by Hussein Patwa. Would you like to introduce yourself, Hussein?
Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name's Hussein Patwa. I'm based up in Aberdeen and currently an accessibility consultant for the last 12 or so years. Time flies. And as part of that, I've worked advising the government and service operators around accessibility, quite close to my heart as a registered blind person myself. And latterly, I've also volunteered in a number of groups around human rights, poverty, and mental health, amongst others.
It's obviously very busy. I think today we're going to be talking about courageous leadership in the context of health and social care, which is one of our Health and Social Care Academy's 5 provocations. So effective leadership is important for shaping the health and social care sector and creating the right conditions for well-being. The aim of our Courageous Leadership series is to explore lessons, styles, and aims from a personal perspective on leadership. If you're ready, you can get started with our first question, which is, what does leadership mean to you?
So I think leadership has a couple of faces to it, I guess. First, over and above being able to get the job done is being able to motivate, to encourage those that you're working with to achieve their full potential and their ambitions. It's something that comes with great responsibility. The flip side of that, of course, is knowing when to relinquish it. So when to delegate, knowing the skills amongst your team and when to attribute a task to somebody who has the ability to do that in the best way to achieve the eventual outcome. It's quite an honor to be in a leadership position, and I've been there myself. You often have, for example, access to more or sensitive information. You have the opportunity to take major decisions, but you always have to focus on the fact that you are a part of a team, and the goal is to get that entire team and everyone within it to that end objective, whatever it is.
So what personal values and principles are important to you? Is being yourself important?
I come from a really strong grounding in having a great deal of empathy and respect for the people that I'm working with. I think that's really important. People see that in a person, and that's often reflected back as part of your working relationship. I think being a leader to be able to motivate and drive people to achieve their potential, but also being a supportive friend in addition to a leader and the responsibility that comes with that. Leadership has its own responsibilities, but I think most important amongst that are transparency, especially nowadays when there is increased focus on what comes behind decision making. And again, that's important not only for team morale, but to avoid confusion, so everybody is certain and can constructively challenge where that's necessary. And I think all of those together lends themselves to being a good leader. It's certainly a role which has multiple faces, so to speak.
Absolutely. What have you found can make it difficult to be a courageous leader? And what sort of things sort of help overcome those challenges?
Perhaps one of the most difficult things is just keeping up with the times. We've seen major changes just in recent years around societal etiquette and tolerance, especially around issues of self and identity and equality. What society will tolerate in terms of working conditions. So for example, the pandemic has shown us heightened focus on conditions relating to stress at work and having our own well-being, giving people their own personal time and space. And I think, just as I alluded to before, that area of transparency and audit, people who are part of a team are motivated now to ask questions, to challenge constructively. And it's one of the responsibilities of leadership to ensure that that transparency, accountability, and incorporating the team into the decision-making process is there. That's especially important in the third sector. From my own experience, I used to volunteer for the best part of 10 years in a large national sight loss charity. And even when I got to know the ropes, if a leader made a decision, initially that would just be accepted as how things are. Towards the end of my tenure there, people were motivated to ask why that decision had been made. They wanted justification. They wanted that to be rationalized. If they didn't feel that was an appropriate decision, they wanted to be part of that process, to be involved in the conversation. And we're seeing that now in healthcare settings, in social care, and in local authorities within our public sector as well. So all of that leads to a challenging time for leadership, but it's also one which, if you wish to embrace it, can also be a big learning opportunity and a chance to really enhance your leadership skills and the opportunities that come from that as part of a team.
Absolutely. Sort of throughout your sort of leadership journey, who's inspired or influenced your style of leadership?
I think probably I'd say my dad, and also the leaders that I've had through my experience. My dad was always extremely motivated. He was the one that told me right from a young age that despite being visually impaired, there was nothing that I couldn't do if I set my mind to it. And it's something that I try and bring to my role when I'm doing things myself, but also as part of a team, to say that there isn't any challenge that can't be overcome with a little bit of perseverance if we just look at it a different way. But also, I suppose I've pulled in the best qualities from those who led in my work experience, also in my voluntary roles. I think it's important not to try and mold yourself onto any one style, because there is no such thing as a perfect leader. But all you can do is try and incorporate the best qualities from those that you look up to, and just use your own best judgment as to how to be the person that you want to be, but also be that person that others can respect, look up to, and seek guidance from.
And sort of, Andy, what piece of advice would you give to someone looking to be a courageous leader?
As always, there's more than one answer, so I'll take my civil liberties and give you three, if I may. I think the first is be yourself. Put your own mark on things. Do things in the way that you feel is right. Go with your moral judgment. There is no right answer when it comes to leadership. You can only go with what you feel is best in that moment and in that particular situation. And as part of that, I think communication is so important. In the past, I think there was a stereotype that to ask whether you were doing the right thing, to ask for help from members of your team, was perhaps seen as a weakness. That is no longer the case. It's always good to keep in touch with the people you're working with. They will be a good yardstick as to whether you're doing a good job, but they will also be the ones that will tell you if there are ways you can do better, if there are things that you could do differently. And keeping those lines of communication, not necessarily in any particular formalized way, but keeping in touch with people, just embedding that as part of the conversation, as part of the decision-making or the appraisal process, anything like that. And lastly, I think, is enjoy it. Leadership does come with responsibility, but it can also be incredibly satisfying. I said before about being able to see people spread their wings and grow into their potential. Really powerful, that, but also the joy that comes from being able to be part of a team, to achieve the objective that you set out to do, and to learn something in the process. Don't discount the learning opportunity that comes from leadership as well. It is very much a two-way street. You're not just there for a single purpose, and just as people will hopefully learn from you, the same goes the other way around as well. So enjoy it.
That's brilliant advice. So thank you so much for joining us today, Hussein. It's sort of been fantastic to sort of hear more about your insights and more about your story.
Thank you for having me.